Hello guys, welcome to another mixing tutorial. Today we'll be taking a look at my cover of We Are Creating at This Moment What Our Tomorrow Will Be by FLUX Conduct. This song is a very beautiful song. I really love it. It's thematically perfect, perfect structure, perfect theme, cohesion. Katsi is one hell of an album. And this was the moment to do a cover of this song. Since I now have this beauty, which is named Katsi as well. And yes, I'm at a place of extreme gratitude for where I'm at, and you guys are part of it, really. So if you're watching this right now, thank you. Thank you for your support on the Patreon page, on the channel as well. It means a lot to me, and it's why I'm able to do what I do. So yeah, now that sappy shit is out of the way, let's get some tones. All right. I usually start by talking about the plugins the entire mix is going through on the master bus, but I will leave those to the end. Why do I do this now? Because that is how I usually use them. I do the entire mix, and at the end, I will add these three usual suspects and do different stuff with them based on the material of the mix. So usually I talk about them at the start because you're always hearing the mix through them, but today I will talk about them last because it's how my workflow actually goes, if that makes sense. So keep in mind you're listening through a mix bus compressor, a multiband one, and a limiter, and in the end I'll explain the settings. All right. As for the drum sound, this is the drum sound on the Veil of Maya members only cover. So go back to that cover to get the full detail on this drum sound, powered by Modern and Massive Drums. There are some differences, so after you've watched that one, you can check this out. I thought the kick needed just a little bit more subs, so our bass on the kick at 45 Hertz got a slight boost, and I also thought the snare was a bit too pokey, which means the snap on the attack was a little bit too snappy and annoying, so it went into a clipper to reduce that snap. Check it out visually, actually. As you can see, this is a big ass peak that's being cut off. This, and if you have a wall and you run the peak into it, the more you boost into that wall, the flatter the transient will be, because it's going to, instead of being a snap that takes milliseconds, it's going to be prolonged in time. This is a very interesting subject. And it's going to make the rest of the drum, which is the sustain, a little bit bigger. So if you think your drums sound like a finger hitting a piece of your hand, if I clipped this to hell and back, I could cut down that peak and increase the sustain of this slapping on the room. Does that make sense? Because that's what I'm doing on the snare. So that's a difference from the mix on members only. Also, I treated the overheads, which had no plugins beforehand. I put a compressor on them for some excitement of the cymbals, and this dynamic tool to reduce the harshness. So here's a before and after on the overheads of both plugins, actually. Big difference. What the compressor is doing is it's making the cymbals a little bit louder all the time, grabbing the low level hits and bringing them up. And then this is compensating that volume boost by reducing only the harsh frequencies. Because I wanted the volume boost, but I didn't want the harsh frequencies to be boosted, so I put this on, and here's the frequencies it's working on. It's that hissy shit, that this is a really, really cool tool. Shouldn't be too expensive, plus we're coming up on Black Friday. I got this at a super discount for like $10 on Plugin Alliance. So sign up for their newsletter and pay attention, because this is a tool that can save cymbals and guitars as well. All right, for the rest of the drum mix, head back to the Veil of Maya members only cover and you'll be good to go. This bass tone, let's check it out. Another thing is that I wanted this cover to sound a bit more natural than I usually do. So I chose in some instances, not on the verse, but here, for example, to just keep everything the way I played it and not edit. So I didn't edit timing and I didn't edit silences either. With the guitars playing, you can't hear that little ring, but I like to believe it adds up to some extra organicness, if you will. So our bass tone engine of choice is the Joel Wanasek Bus Glue bass. It compresses our low end in very big amounts so that it's nice and stable on the notes, and it compresses and distorts our top end. The distortion of choice is distortion A, though B could have been very cool on this mix. And C is a bit honky for this mix. After that, I thought it could use more low end, but just boosting the level of the low end on the plugin wasn't giving me the frequencies I was looking for, so I put R-Bass on the DI. R-Bass generates subharmonics at it generates harmonics based on a certain frequency you give it, generates harmonics over 50, so it gives you the 100 and the 200 and the 400 in a proportional way that makes you believe that a lot of 50 was boosted. So this works some low-end magic that's different from just boosting 50 Hertz. I just added that onto the DI. It just gets instantly thicker, and then it goes into the distortion. Then this SSL EQ is making some strange EQ moves actually. This is normal, removing sub up to 30. I'll go up to 40 actually. And high end down to 6.5 kilohertz, which is just hissy noise. Then there is another boost at 60 because I wanted more sub out of this bass. And here's a pretty significant cut at 200. Let's bypass this. This might make more sense in this part. I thought the bass sounded very notey. I could hear a lot of notes and this sounds stupid. Of course you want to hear the notes, but whenever I hit the higher notes, because this is clearly two parts where you play the low notes and then you do the melody with the guitar. It sounded really in balance. The higher notes were very boomy for some reason and the low notes were very nice. So I thought that cutting 200 made it sound a bit more balanced. The difference is between this and this. with guitars without the EQ, guitars and EQ. I thought it helped it gel a little bit better. That's the choice behind that EQ move. Guitars. This is the SS11X, as stock as it gets, and the tone is all in this beauty. I'll actually let you listen to the DI. These are bare knuckle. This is a bare knuckle nail bomb. So what I hear here is midlife strings. Actually, these are the strings Brown played beforehand. These aren't new. I hear a nice, really, really nice balance of low end and high end. The low end is very quiet and compact, and the brightness and attack are very, very present. The guitar just sounds ready to go into an amplifier. You've seen me EQ the DI sometimes before the amps, like I just boosted bass on a bass DI before it hit the amp. And you've seen me EQ some woofiness out of the Schecter 8 string, for example, before it hits the amp. But this one needs nothing, which speaks for the quality of the instrument. I will experiment with it, but I didn't think it was necessary. That said, let's go into it. This is the plugin as stock as it gets. I turned on the gate. Yes, I turned on the gate. I turned on the drive pedal, stock IR, lead channel, mid-range shift, and then these huge EQ moves you see here. That's it. I can literally delete the plugin and create this tone again. Let's grab the bad boy. So, gate on, pedal on, stock IR, lead channel. Oh, and I reduced the gain, of course. A little bit more high, a little bit less mid, tilt shift, 7 volume. Sometimes I get this bug where the noise gate will not work. But other than that, it just speaks to the quality of the guitar and of this plugin in particular. Very, very happy with it today. Then an EQ after. We are filtering low end beneath 90 and high end above 8.5. And we're boosting a little bit of 2000. This is in honor of the original mix where the guitars are very, very mid-rangey, and I wanted to get a bit closer to that sound. No joke, the guitars in the original actually sound like this. Since it didn't fit my mix, I just boosted it a little bit. Then our usual guitar compressor, here to act mostly on the palm mutes. Let's go to the end and you can watch it work, because the palm mutes will be very loud compared to the rest of the notes, and the compressor will catch that. But this isn't the palm mute track. That's what the compressor is doing. Oh, and yeah, by the way, there are 2 stacks of rhythms at the end. One does these notes, and another one does this riff. The difference is that the riff is 95% penned, not 100. Brown probably has something like 80 going on. But I like it a bit wider. And then on the EQ, I am boosting more of that mid-range to make justice to the original tone. Then into the compressor. Other than that, it's the same tone. Let's get to this cool lead that's in the break. It's the same tone without the mid-range boost on the pedal, so a little bit more scooped of a lead sound. Then the EQ is getting rid of the excess low end and high end to make it sound more filtered, more like a lead. This is a very, very big and obvious difference. And of course, our ping pong delay to make the lead stereo wide. The same tone, I believe, is going to these chorus leads. It's the same tone, but there is one on the left and one on the right doing octaves. Very, very cool. The clean guitars on the break. So this is again stock SS11X, stock cabinet, stock clean sound, just removing a bit of bass and boosting a little bit of high end. Then on the bus, we're going to EQ low end out of it up to 180 Hertz. Get some reverb on it. This is a very cool, very bright reverb from Softtube. Move the delay. Sounds very, very cool at about 5 seconds of decay. A compressor to make the reverb glue with the dry track, actually. A very nice trick. If you compress a reverb track, you make the reverb louder and the attack slower, which is something I like. And then, of course, a stereo delay, ping pong, with some modulation to make it chorusy on the repeats. Then just another filter on the bottom end to make sure nothing beneath 100 goes by. Bad English today. I am very sorry. These strings very fond of them. I use the, let's see, okay. I use the EQ on the plugin to shape them. So this is a high-end boost that's very mid-rangey actually, and a mid-cut that's very low-mid, and then a low cut that goes up to 100 Hertz. This is very drastic. That was the difference in shaping the sound to make it heard. Then another low cut at 100 Hertz to make sure none of this goes through. And a mid-range cut at 400 to make it a bit less honky. And that's all she wrote. So our piano. Little Addictive Keys Studio Grand. and it's going into some plate reverb at 5 seconds, 50% mix, and a low cut up to 250 hertz, and then some aggressive EQ. So getting rid of a lot of low end, because this is a layer. This is not a main piano. Check out the before and after on this one. That sounds like a proper piano. This sounds like an effect piano, which is what it is. And then the same thing, but this piano has a little bit less reverb at 25% to play the chords. Very, very nice. Basically, there's explosions on every chorus. I boosted the high end today on the explosions to make it nice and explosive on the high end. Let's see if we can hear them. Into the limiter, the effect is almost of reducing the rest of the music instead of exploding, which is an effect I like sometimes. Cute. And then there's this very important rise. This marks the beginning of the end. And then when I do the cheeky modulation. Now that I have this mix sounding the way I'd like, I go into the mastering chain. This is how I usually work. So I check how much compression I can get away with so that it sounds a bit more glued, but it doesn't sound pumping. On this song, it was very little because it's very guitar busy and I want it to be a bit more open. So that's 1 to 2 decibels of gain reduction. But I was looking for a bit of saturation to glue the bass with the guitars and cymbals. Saturation can make them all sound like one unit instead of very separate units. And this is a plugin that does that. The multiband, I was mostly looking for it to compare both of the low end bands and affect them. And today I bypassed the mid-range band. I left it absolutely open so that it wouldn't get reduced to make the mix a bit more mid-rangey in honor of Brown's original mix. It's a big difference actually when I switch it on and off. And then our limiter is just the usual. A filter before it to get rid of anything beneath 28 hertz that could blow up the limiter really. And not too much gain reduction today, leaving the mix a bit less loud but more dynamic. And I went with Intelligent Release Control 1. The 1 makes your kick and snare sound a bit, well, let's say softer and bigger, while RC2 makes them sound very attacky and clean. Today I wanted softer and bigger. Very minor difference though, in my opinion, and it's even a minorer difference when you're pushing it little. Some would say this is not little, but you've seen me do this. But as you can tell, on this song, it doesn't sound too good because it's a guitar song. Well, yeah, that is it, guys. That is the mixing tutorial for we are creating at this moment. Thank you so much for watching, supporting the channel, and subscribing to the Patreon. Really, we are now at 10,000 subscribers. That's a crazy number. Right now, as I film this, we're not, but as this goes live tomorrow, we should be, or not. I don't really care. What I really care is that the subscribers I do have are the most supportive, and that really is you guys. So thank you so much for being here, and I guess I'll see you in the next one. Leave any questions in the Patreon post. I love you guys. Take care.